Happy New Year, everybody. 2025 is here. It's really kind of hard to believe. I'm just wondering, as we're entering into a new year with hopefully lots of good things ahead of us, do you ever kind of look back and reflect on the last year? Do you look back and say, well, these are some bad things that have happened, professionally speaking, and these are some good things, and these, I don't know, I still don't know yet. We're still waiting. I think many people do that. Many appraisers probably do that. And guess what? We're going to do it right now. So come on back and join the conversation for a look on 2024 and maybe some insight as to what 2025 is going to bring. You're not going to want to miss this one. Come on back. Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by the great folks over at Appraiser eLearning. You need some education? Check us out at AppraiserELearning.com. You'll be glad you did. Lots and lots of courses, some free stuff like this, live events. Got a conference right around the corner. Like to thank my sponsor, LIA Administrators and Insurance Services, for all your continued support of the Appraisal Update Podcast. All right. So I was talking about reflecting, and I want to bring in my partner and my friend, Hal. Hey, Hal. How's Hal?
Hal's good. How is Bryan doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, my friend. And so I set this up as, 25's here. Wonder how many people have already still written January, whatever, 2024. We were talking.
I haven't even written the year this year. I'm just, it's 2025. It's just over.
I just got back from a luncheon with some of my team, my appraisal team. A couple of guys came up from Nashville, and we met and had a nice lunch. And that was one of the topics. How long is it going to be before you quit writing 2024? And I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It happens to all of us for a minute. But let's talk about 2024 for a minute. I mean, I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that we're going to have a great 2025. But let's talk about some things that happened in 2024. And I think Kim's helped us out, kind of built us a little top 10 list here. All right. So let's talk about it. And we'll start with number 10. Number 10 was the announcement of the new UAD, the new appraisal report. Don't call them forms anymore, right? We know that. And she's got on here, which I love Kim. And everyone accepted this news with extreme calm. Is that what really is that how everybody accepted the news?
That's not how I remember it.
Me either.
I remember when the first version of the universal appraisal data set came out and the weeping and gnashing of teeth that came with that. I think this round, the people that are actually paying attention some of them are freaking out. Like, new UAD, half of them aren't even paying attention.
Oh no. I agree. And there's some justification for that, Hal, because we've been hearing about this for 6 years. It's like, yeah. It's like Bigfoot, right? Sure, there's one. Sure, this is coming. I did a webinar with Lyle Radke on this. Probably a year or so ago, and everybody was not calm and relaxed. There was some hostile folks out there, and I think it equates to the fear of the unknown. I think that we're all adults, and we can deal with change at some point. We might be in denial at first or resistance at first, but we could deal with it. But it's the fear of the unknown. How is this going to impact my business? Will I have to get new software? How am I going to learn this stuff? I think it's the fear of the unknown. And
it is. And Bryan, the good thing is you and I have both been trained on teaching the new UAD. So For the listeners out there to the Appraisal Update podcast, take heart. We're here to help you get familiar with the new UAD and how to get your head around that process.
And this topic's going to come up in a couple of other of the top 10 as well. So we'll get to that in just a minute and maybe point you in some directions to get additional information. And as Hal said, we've been in a training, we've been in an update. And gosh, I think you and I are kind of tag team and then doing this thing in April in San Antonio. So if somebody's at the conference or wants to just come for that, we've got some pre-conference education, and Hal and I will be offering a course on the new appraisal report UAD. So come join us there. Hal, I've got number 9 is a staff book club. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so looking back on the year and things that worked and things that didn't work and things that I thought were really cool, here at Appraisal eLearning, we put together a staff book club, and it was Aaliyah Terrell who came up with the idea. We were talking about another thing, and she said, well, how about we do a book club and get everybody involved? And we've got pretty much the entire staff involved in this book club. And this first book that we did as the staff book club was Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Gadara. Fantastic book on customer service. He comes from a restaurant background. But if you're a listener to the Appraisal Update podcast, if you're an appraiser, you know that we are in a service business. We're in a service-oriented business. Pick up a copy of Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Gadara. I think it's a fantastic book, and we have certainly enjoyed going through it on the staff here at Appraisal eLearning. And I will tell you, we've enjoyed it so much, we're going to continue the book club. So, I think one of my takeaways from 2024 is, when you get the group together to study a thing together, we all tend to benefit. So that's one of the things that I thought was really fun from the past year. Bryan, what was the most watched webinar you had from 2024?
The one with Ernie on ChatGPT. AI is here, whether you like it, whether you love it, whether you hate it, whether you want to resist it. The stock market.
Whether it lies to you.
Yeah, Hal and I did just a podcast just recently on that, and it does lie to you on occasion, doesn't it? But yes. But Ernie did a really great job about showing appraisers prompts and how that can help them analyze data and use that as an analytical tool. And I know we've gotten a lot of inquiries on that. We talked about doing an additional webinar on that, Hal, and maybe we do one that's a paid webinar that dives a little bit deeper and gives the appraisers some shortcuts to kind of rev that up and get it going. He does have some prompts, and I believe he said he was willing to share those, so we can make those available to our audience.
I'll say, as far as using ChatGPT and other of the generative predictive text models, we are working with Joanne Conde out in Arizona. She has a series of webinars we're going to be presenting that are deep dives into specifically ChatGPT and how to use ChatGPT to do different things as a real estate appraiser. Stay tuned for that. Now, I want to go to number 7 on the list. Number 7, top 10 things of the past year. Number 7, the announcement of the new UAD.
I thought that was number 10. It's back again, number 7. So talk about that.
Back, and it keeps coming back, and it keeps coming back. Here's the thing. It is a real thing, and they have locked in the dates now. We as appraisers are going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to be ready for it. Here's the thing. The interesting thing to me, Bryan, is the lenders, the underwriters, the AMCs, the people who order appraisals at various levels are going to have to be ready for it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not just the appraiser, the working appraiser getting trained on it. It's going to be lenders and AMCs and users of appraisal services are going to have to know how this thing operates as well. So there's going to be a lot of education coming around the bend for this, and I'm excited about it. I know there are some things, and we'll talk about with the next one, that some appraisers may not like, but I think there's a lot of good things that it's going to have, and maybe on this next one, you and I can kind of dive just a tidbit deeper on this. So, did you? Well, before we do that, have you had some folks over on the Buzzcast? And for my listeners, if God forbid you haven't heard about it, how does a show over called the Buzzcast? How real quickly plug that, let everybody know how often that is and how they can listen to that.
So the Appraisal Buzzcast drops once a week. I think it comes out in the Buzz newsletter on Wednesdays. I'm not entirely sure, but we have, good Lord, I don't know how many episodes we have in the bank total. It's upwards of a couple of hundred at this point. So yeah, check us out, Appraisal Buzzcast. Love to see you over there. But moving on to number 6, top 10 list.
So the most watched podcast episode, and this is for this past year, right? And this just came out, I think, 4 weeks ago, maybe 5. It's not that old, and it's got almost 2,000 views. It was called "The Future of Appraisal Reports" with Jeff Bradford. And you know Jeff. Jeff just texted me the other day. I love that guy. I mean, he's just a super, super good guy, and he and I have created quite a bond here recently. It's a long story, but we send each other pictures of pretzels. Ask me another time. But I was 2 days ago, I got some pretzels, and first thing I do is take a picture and send the picture to Jeff Bradford. But Jeff had put together a little video about the future of appraising, and it's out there, and it's a great little common sense video, and it breaks it down. It uses kind of an analogy of TurboTax, and it really paints a good picture of where we're going. And of course, UAD is a big part of that conversation. Yeah. And he equates it to, everything flowing and making more sense. And part of the things I like, Hal, is there's going to be no C addendum. There are no addendums with this new appraisal report. If you're talking about a drainage issue and you've got photographs showing standing water, guess what? It's right in the spot there where you're talking about water issues. You don't have to go to page 45 and see the photos that you're talking about on page 2. It's all right there together.
It's right there in the flow. Yeah, I love that. I think is there going to be a learning curve for appraisers? Yes. Is it going to be a pain? Of course. But once we all get into it and get our heads around it, I think it's going to be a much easier process than we've dealt with the past 30 plus minus years.
If you guys haven't watched that podcast episode, jump over and look at it. There's a couple of things one of the required fields is, does the subject property have broadband? Yes or no? And that's part of the new report, and it's mandatory. You can't change it. You're going to have to know that. And Jeff and I talk about that in detail, and how I know there were a couple of other things that when we were at Fannie Mae headquarters, you and I kind of had some concerns, and I don't know if they'll get those ironed out, but I hope they do. One of the things that Fannie and Freddie did say at that event, they hope that this becomes a situation kind of like when you have an app on your phone and you need to update it, you update it. It updates pretty quickly, whereas look how long it's taken to update a Fannie Mae form from 2005. 20 years is a long time. So hopefully if they need to make a little tweak, maybe Hal's suggestion of, hey, we need a verification field, or, data and verify, make it a required field on both, because they don't have that right now, and they should. Okay, so if it's easy to update it. Let's do a UAD update, right? Click a little button and update. Hal, don't say a word. Don't go to number, where are we, 5 yet? I got something to do. I got a little business to take care of. For 45 years, LI Administrators and Insurance Services has been offering E&O insurance coverage to valuation professionals. They apply superior customer service, exceptional liability education, and simply unparalleled claim defense to serve well over 10,000 real estate professionals all across our lands. They offer commercial bonds, general liability, cyber liability, and so much, much more. Visit liability.com to learn more about how they can help you and your business. All right, Hal. Next on the list, number 5. What is number 5?
5. Number 5. All right, so look, we selected these ourselves. They're things that we think are interesting. ICOR, Instructors Conference and Retreat. We've done it the past couple of years. I think we're going to start doing it every other year going forward. There's a lot of meat on the bone for ICOR. It is a place where people get together and we learn storytelling and instructor techniques and tools. This past year, we had Sean Cole, public radio producer. He's one of the producers at This American Life, come in and talk to our instructors and people that want to be instructors with us about how to tell stories and how stories can have impacts. And different ways to frame stories that make them stick with people who are learning. So I got to say, as appraiser learning, ICOR is one of the things that I'm proudest of. I think it's a really fun, entertaining retreat for instructors, and it's different from anything I've ever seen.
I'll tell you, when I first talked to you about doing one of these, I've been to several instructor training workshops or seminars or meetings, and you and I talked about it, and then the first one when you said, all right, everybody's going to get up and be, I'm like, what? What are we doing? What are we doing here? And the response was incredible. I mean, I was like, oh my God, whatever we do, we got to do that again. And we did it. We did it again the second year. And it really bonds, I think, all the attendees. They really get to know one another in a very deeply personal way. And a lot of tears were shed both of those events. And it's a really special event. So if you think about wanting to be an instructor or even a curriculum developer, we encourage you to attend ICOR. It's going to be an incredible personal experience that you're not going to forget. I promise you that. So we're skipping. So any idea on when the next one might be, or are you're talking next year probably? We
literally just decided last week that we think so. We've had our instructors come in for 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. We're trying to make the transition from having our instructors come in and sit through the ICOR presentations. We want them to be facilitators. They've been through it twice now. We want to open it up to a broader population of instructors. And quite honestly, just business professionals who give presentations mm-hmm. or talk to groups. And we need some time to get our heads around what that looks like. So we're looking at 2026 for the next ICOR. And I'm already, we spent literally a good part of the weekend between Christmas and New Year's working on the structure, planning for the next ICOR in 2026. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Number 4 on the list. Now, this is one that, all right, so Kim put this on there. The Fed cuts interest rates 3 times in 2024. What does that mean for us as a real estate appraisers, Bryan?
Apparently not much, because everybody thinks, oh my God, the Fed just made an announcement. They're cutting the rates. Everybody's going to go out and refinance their mortgage, and we're going to be busy as appraisers. And we're like, wait a minute, the mortgage rates, long-term rates actually went up. How is that possible? And so don't put all your eggs in one basket, number one, and be so reliant, I teach a course, Josh teaches a course about diversifying your practice, about doing non-lender type work, and what I call personally interest rate safe work, because people are going to get divorced, unfortunately. People are going to die. People are going to, they're going to widen regardless of what the interest rates are. So it's just a matter of diversifying your practice from the perspective that you're not solely relying on one certain stream of business to come in. Real estate appraisers are important. They serve a very, very important role in what they do. And there's always going to be valuation problems that need to be solved.
Yeah.
If you're doing only mortgage work, the rates could have a pivotal part on your business volume. It's just that simple. And so, I don't know, 3 times they talked about being aggressive in 2025. Well, it's kind of like a judge and a jury. You never know what they're going to do until they do it. It's very hard to predict. The economists can't figure this stuff out. So I don't know. What do you think, Hal? Are we looking for more? There's got to be some cuts in 25, I would think.
I think the Fed signaled in their last announcement that they were probably not going to be doing too much in the next 6 months to 12 months. At the end of the day, there is still, Freddie Mac identifies a shortage in housing supply. There are several think tanks around the country that have identified a shortage of residential supply, available properties for sale. At the end of the day, I think 2025, I think the market, I think there are people out there that have wanted to buy a house for a couple of years now, and those people are going to make that decision in 2025. Are the rates going to go up substantially? I don't think so. Are they going to go down substantially? I don't think so. There's a lot of uncertainty out there in the market in general, not just the real estate market, but the market as a whole. I think a lot of people are going to the powers that be are going to take it really slow on changing rates and such. But at the end of the day, people want to have a house. People want to, the refinance thing is really interesting to me because a lot of people got into real estate, bought their first home, bought their first piece of real estate during the COVID pandemic when rates were at an abnormally, low point. And if you're in a 30-year mortgage at a sub 3% interest rate, it would not make sense to refinance anytime soon.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I do think, however, that folks that need a bigger house, they need to get rid of a bigger house and scale down to a smaller house. They're getting to the point where it's like, okay, I need to go ahead and make a decision.
Got to do something.
And I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And then if the rates drop, I'll refinance, right? But I've been waiting for these things to go back down to 3, and they're not going there. And guess what, folks? They may never go there. You may be waiting a really long time because they may never go back to that. Historically speaking, 8% is a pretty good rate for long-term money. And I want 7. No, I want 6. No, I want 3 like you. But those were just insane rates, and I frankly don't know if we'll ever get back there. Hey, number 3 is a big question mark, and I can maybe think of something, but what do you got? So number 3 was, did we make anybody mad?
Yes, we did.
Every day.
Yes. You and I both have the ability to say things in public at times that, yes, people could take umbrage with, right? But I think realistically, the most fun thing to do with this number 3, did we make anybody really mad this year, is I think we do a thing where we read out some of the hate mail that we've gotten, because some of it is actually good.
So there's 2 that come to my mind right offhand, and one was I was trying to help people. I mean, I'm not getting paid for this. How you're not getting paid to do this stuff? This is our way to give back. And I was talking about collecting data out in the field and using a device of some sort to make your life easier. And it just does. I mean, it's a fact. If you write down a bunch of notes out in the field on a piece of paper and then come back to your office, what do? You're typing them in, which basically is writing them out twice as opposed to one time.
That's if I'm writing notes in the field, there's a really good chance I'm not going to be able to read them when I get back to the office.
Right. So I was talking about, doctors are using these, Chick-fil-A uses these, everybody's using these, and it just makes sense. And, you don't use a typewriter anymore. And somebody wrote in and just, well, it must be nice to have the money to go buy an iPad, and just really, getting on me for saying, are you that appraiser? And And so I addressed it in the next podcast, and I spoke directly to that individual. Didn't mention them by name. I'll never do that. But said, look, if you genuinely can't afford one, let's try and hook you up somehow. Most of the excuses I've heard is I can't see it. What if I drop it and break it? It's the limiting belief. So that was one guy that wasn't too happy with me. And another one was I was showing a testing device. This was a video, wasn't even a podcast. And I think Kim put it out on Instagram or something. I never saw it forever. And then I saw it one day. I'm like, oh, there's me. And all these, it wasn't one, it was negative comments. I hope she could find that one, because I was showing a testing device for electrical outlets, right, for FHA. And how the haters out there, who is this guy? Well, I'm Bryan Reynolds, first of all, in case you don't know. Who is this guy? Don't listen to him. He's an idiot. Don't ever test an outlet. Don't stay. People are going to think you are a home inspector. This guy demonstrated his ignorance because he didn't know how to use his own tester, which is probably true. But I'm like, oh my God, all of these folks are posting on social media saying, don't do it. Guess what the HUD 4000.1 says? That you better check the outlets in the house, on the exterior of the house, and in the garage. So I'm thinking, God forbid a trainee or a new appraiser's listening to this bad advice. I'm like, oh, no. So anyway, that was another hater string. So yeah, it'd be fun to read some of those. Number 2, let's move on. I don't like talking about hate very much.
Reconsideration of value announcement from FHFA. How dare they?
God, what is up with that? Why do I got to reconsider anything? I always get it right the first time, Hal. So
I got some really negative feedback about the ROV announcement, and they're telling them the playbook for how to disagree with us. I'm like, there's always been a mechanism by which a consumer could disagree with us. It's always existed. They've just kind of dialed it into, all right, here are the rules you have to play inside. And here's what they did.
Right.
They limited it. 5 additional comparables. They have to be vetted before they're headed over to the appraiser. There's a number of things that they have to do before it even gets to the appraiser.
The one thing with this, and obviously none of us want to get an ROV on every single appraisal we do. None of us want that happening. And so there should be some structure in how those occur. But honestly, if you've got somebody really, really unhappy with your opinion, and they have something that they think may change your opinion, I would welcome that. I want to be now I may look at it and say, well, you and I are going to have a difference of opinion. I don't think these are comparable. And this is why. That's why I'm not going to use them. You're certainly entitled to go get another opinion. But, I'd like to have that opportunity to communicate with whomever, as opposed to them just filing a complaint against me, which very well could happen when somebody's not happy. And so I like to think that if they provide data and I review it and I say, look, this is the reason why I think we can have a grown-up conversation, and they may still not like me, but hopefully they understand where I'm coming from that. And I had a guy one time call me up and he said, how did my value go down? And I never said his value went down. He was comparing it to another appraiser from a year ago that did. And we weren't in a market, where values were going down. They were very stable, maybe even increasing. And I couldn't get him to understand that it was just a mere difference of opinion from that appraiser to me. And I said, look, you gave me the best comp your neighbor house sold. You told me about it when I was there. I used it. He said, Mr. Reynolds, let me just tell you this. He said, when you came out to the property, he said, you were very professional. You were kind to my wife and I. You measured the property. You interviewed us. You were here for 30, 35 minutes. And I really appreciate this. And I appreciate you talking to me on the phone today and explaining your position on this. But I'm never going to use you again. I said, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. We agree to disagree. All right. So number 1. And I said something I shouldn't have said it. I said a Pfeiffer moment, and that was bad on me. Shame on me. I shouldn't have said that. But
here's the thing. It's one of the most genuine examples of a very public failure and eventual recovery.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened.
So Jason Pfeiffer is author of a book. He's just a great guy, very knowledgeable. He's a platform speaker, I think it's fair to say. And he's editor at Hal Humphreys, Entrepreneur Magazine. So he was our keynote speaker at Val Expo. We were super excited about it. I actually interviewed him before he went on, and I did a podcast later. And by the way, I got one hater on that, thinking that we set that up. Hey, dude, I interviewed him before he went on the big stage. That interview you saw was prior to that meltdown. I don't know if that's fair to say, but so everybody was super excited. He had his book there. I had him autograph my copy. He gets on the stage, and he's probably done this presentation hundreds of times, and he was on a roll, and he's going. And Covington, it's all his fault. So we had a friend of ours, an appraiser, and I've done a podcast with him, Jason Covington. He was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. He was kind of our timekeeper, and it was just in an effort to let the speaker know, hey, you got 10 minutes left. Hey, you got 5 minutes left. Hey, you need to wrap it up, right? Because we're in a time frame. And I guess nobody told our speaker that because he was on his roll doing his thing, and Jason held up a time, and he lost it. Yeah. He's like, I got 5 minutes left, but I got 20 minutes. So I'm talking about this beer. Where was I? This beer. And then he said, "Screw it, I'm off. I don't know what's happening." And guys, he literally, I felt sorry for him. How I'm in the back of the room, and I want to go give him a hug and say, just tell everybody the bar's open. You know, I wanted to throw him a lifeline, but and everyone witnessed it. I mean, you have a big name author, editor on stage giving a brilliant presentation until it wasn't.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
He just couldn't get past it.
Here's the thing. I will take full credit for the entire sequence of events because we were late getting Jason on the stage, Pfeiffer. We did not tell Covington that Jason was late getting on the stage. Covington was working against the clock. And I totally get it. You've got a presentation in your head. You've got talking points and bullet points that you know you're going to get to in the next thing. And then somebody throws up a flag saying 10 minutes left and then 5 minutes left, and you've got another 30 minutes or 20 minutes left in your presentation. I understand how you get stuck. Yeah. And here's the thing. So Jason will say, I flamed out in front of everybody.
And he did.
But what he did is he analyzed it. He studied it. He asked very specific questions about how did this happen? You know, why did this happen? What can I do to avoid it in the future? And right. He and I have had several conversations about it, and I know now that you know, as the person running the actual floor show at Valuation Expo, that I need to move other people off the stage sooner so that we can get the keynote speaker on time and give them their full allotted time. But I also need to communicate to the timekeeper that, hey, if this guy's late getting on, give him some extra time. If people want to leave, they can leave. Right. And I guarantee nobody would have left the room.
You know, it was such a real moment how the audience, and I think that's why later somebody said, was that a setup?
Yeah.
Because the audience probably had never seen anything like that, right? Yeah. I know I hadn't. And it was, I think the audience members were concerned and felt bad for him as well. Nobody likes to see someone fail.
No.
I mean, you want to see somebody succeed. And he bless his heart, he got off track and he could forget the beer story, Jason, move on to another one. You know, that's what I wanted to say. But then it had nothing to do with the beer story then. Then it was like, why is this happening to me? This has never happened to me before well, let's move on. But why is this happening? And he was stuck. He was literally, and he tried to restart a couple of times. But yeah, it just showed that we're all human. I mean, our standards say perfection is impossible to attain, doesn't it?
That's it. That's what I was going to go for.
We're not perfect.
Everybody in the world makes mistakes. Every appraiser in the world has made a mistake. I like to talk about, we've all got at least one report out there that gives us heartburn.
We'd like to have that back. Can I get that one back?
Please.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We've all made mistakes. The thing that I was incredibly impressed with is Jason Pfeiffer got out in front of it in a very, very, very public way. He posted in his newsletter and he wrote a piece in Entrepreneur Magazine about the experience. Mm-hmm. So if you're an appraiser and you've made a mistake, this is a really good example of how to get out in front of the mistake and say, wait a minute, I messed up. I did this, I should have done this. And
right.
Now why these things happened, that won't happen again. So if you get a call from your state about a complaint, if you've made a mistake, talk to your attorney and your insurance provider and those kind of things. But if you've made a mistake, I've talked to a number of appraisers who've been called in front of their state board for various reasons. They made mistakes.
Sure.
Everybody understands that mistakes happen. If you just say, I screwed up here, I messed this up. Here's why. No, that's not an excuse. It is a reason. I will pay attention to it going forward. If you get out in front of the mistakes, analyze them, figure them out, you can turn a really bad thing into a really positive thing.
Yeah, the very next day, I think I was the last speaker the other day, and I was doing a little thing up there, a little martial art technique, and it went bad.
Broke some guy's arm in front of the whole crowd.
I didn't break his arm; it was his wrist, and it didn't get broke. But I was scared to death. And then I had the whole audience do it, and I'm like, okay, we better have some good general liability policy because I'm about to break 350 more wrists, right? But I see how that could happen, because when that gentleman, when that little mess up happened, my fault, I lost it for a second. And clearly, if somebody gets hurt, you do want to put all attention on them. But I was like, I easily could have just went blank for the rest of my presentation. And thankfully, I shook it off and got restarted and moved on. But Jason's a great guy. He tells a great story. I read his book. It's a great book. He's human. And
yes.
Our theme was superpowers, and I said, even Superman has a weakness, right? A little kryptonite. You put that kryptonite in his pocket, and it got him. And so anyway, that's our top 10. Hal, tell everybody where you're going to be or how they can listen to a Buzzcast, or if they want to reach out to you directly and send you some hate mail or not non-hate mail. Which is it?
If you want to send hate mail, the email address is Bryan. My email is hal@storyboardemp.com. We'll put it in the comments underneath the video and in the description on the podcast service. Reach out to me anytime. Look, I love feedback. I like good feedback. I like negative feedback, as long as it's meant to make me a better person, a better appraiser, a better instructor. I like the feedback. Quite honestly, even the negative feedback that's meant just to be hurtful, I oftentimes get a lot out of that feedback. So send me an email, hal@storyboardemp.com. Happy to respond to you. Bryan, look, it's 2025, and I'm very much excited about this next year.
Me too. And one of the things Hal just said is about criticism. Listen, we can all improve. I've told a lot of my students and listeners for years now, quit lying to your kids. Practice doesn't make perfect, because there's no such thing as perfection. Remember, perfection's impossible to attain. Practice makes better. So if there's something that you see that you think we could massage and make better, please reach out to us and let us know. If you just email me and say I'm stupid, Okay, but that doesn't, how do I not be stupid? That's what I need to know. Give me some actionable criticism so that I can improve, and I certainly welcome that as well. Hal, thank you so much for taking out some time and spending with me, going through this top 10. This was fun, and hopefully Kim's going to put some stuff in here to even make it funner. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast. Brought to you by Appraiser eLearning. I'd like to thank my sponsor, LI Administration and Insurance, for all they do. Until next time, I'm your host, Bryan Reynolds, for Hal Humphreys. Happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update Podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.